This is the story of Air France Flight 447. It starts all at the gate when the aircraft was effectively getting started. The captain starts the APU. The aircraft's APU begins to start. The captain just is waiting for the APU to start, okay? The accident sequence has not begun yet, but it's very close to beginning, okay? The aircraft has now got some power since the APU has slightly began starting, but it hasn't started fully. Alright, the aircraft has now got some power from the APU gen. And now the APU starts. Captain begins starting both engines with the start switch and the fuel levels. He's just waiting for the sign that both engines have been successfully started so he can taxi to the runway and take off. His engines start. As the N1 increases, the Airbus A330 from Air France is now on its way to disaster. The aircraft's engines begin to spool up. As they begin spooling up, something bad happens. The chain of events begin. The captain now begins taxiing to the runway. He adds a bit of power, looking down at his power levers. He continuously looks at them. And thinking if he should even add any power. The accident sequence is still hours away. From this point on, the accident events begin, which will lead to the accident sequence. The aircraft is now continuously flying, actively flying, making its way towards disaster. The more the captain does anything, the more the aircraft effectively flies itself towards disaster. The aircraft's airspeed tape has still not begun moving. He releases the parking brakes, and a couple of minutes later, he's on the runway. He pulls back on his side sticks just to ease the jet into the air. He waits a couple of moments, and the jet begins to lift into the air at 100 knots. This is just a normal, routine takeoff. The aircraft lifts from the ground. It finally lifts. Okay, it is now into the air, beginning its climb towards 22,000 feet. Pretty high, okay? At least 30,000 feet, but I'm gonna use 22 for this example. The aircraft is now climbing towards its target. The captain engages the autopilot and sets 30,000 feet. The aircraft will bust through this altitude during this effective disaster event. But now the aircraft is in a climb, okay? It is climbing nicely. There is about nothing the pilots can do to prevent the disaster. At this point in the disaster sequence, they can still do a lot. Later on, there will be nothing to do to prevent this disaster from happening. Okay, the aircraft is now flying towards its effective disaster point. The aircraft is climbing towards disaster as well, as having an effective time of its own. Just nicely moving along. A nice normal day. Nothing is abnormal for now. The stall warning awaits the pilots. The aircraft now flies into icing conditions. With icing conditions taken into account effectively here, we got now the pitot probes. We need to talk about those for a second. They have their specific heating elements, but those are overcome. But for now, there's nothing wrong with the captains or first officers or the standby airspeed take. Everything seems to be going normal for now. For now. Now, we're left an absolute speculation here on why this crash even happened in the first place. Because when the first officer's actions will be revealed, to this day we don't know why these actions were done. And we still don't know. We'll never. The investigation has been ended since the crash was investigated fully. Final reports have been released. Yup. Final reports have been quiet released, okay? They've been quiet released. And now, the disaster sequence is set to play out. The pitot probes, now are beginning, okay, to start giving up on that ice that is forming. Until it happens. The captain, both pilots lose all airspeed indications, and a stall warning goes off. The aircraft begins climbing fast, and now it begins losing its climb rate as it effectively falls through 40 knots. The stall alarm has been effectively broken. It calls out stall, 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 as the aircraft pitches with 16 degrees, close to what you would have on a takeoff. First officer suddenly pulls back power before he re-increases it, showing and saying, "We've got the engines, what's happening?" Followed by the aircraft hitting the ground. Bye guys, I don't know how to end the outro, just weirdest outro ever.